Potwin, Kansas, a small town near Wichita where there's a little 360-acre farm. It's been owned by the Vogelman family for over 100 years. Joyce, now 82, rents out the property. She remembers when the first bathroom was put into the house. She wrote Sunday school classes from this house. The farm contains a pasture, orchard, 2 barns, and an old 2-story house. It's a mile to the nearest neighbor, and the nearest town is only 13,000 people. It's a 2-hour drive from the geographical middle of the United States. Average, rural America. However, it hasn't been anything like average for the last 14 years. Joyce and her renters have had visits from the FBI, federal marshals, IRS collectors, ambulances, police. They've accused them of being identity thieves, spammers, scammers, fraudsters. They've accused them of attempting suicide publicly, been attempted of kidnapping young girls and making dirty movies, and many other things that I'm not even going to try and say. Many threatening objects have been left on their property because people believe that they're doing this stuff. But did she actually do anything to deserve this or her renters? No. According to the sheriff, she's one of the nicest people that he's ever known, and she's never been in any trouble. To say it isn't fair is an understatement. So what happened, you might ask? I mentioned that it's close to the center of the United States. Well, the exact center of the United States is 39.83333 by 98.585522. That's the exact center. Well, 10 years ago, a company named MindMax found it easier to approximate as 38.0s by 97.0s. It just happens that's a nice approximate address is in Joyce's front yard. So, MindMax is a company that tries to map IP internet computer addresses to a physical location. So any computer that's on a network or the internet or a phone or anything like that has an IP address. That's how the packets of communication know where to route. And MindMax tries to take those internet addresses and map them to actual physical locations. So you can do this by sending out vehicles to drive around the whole United States and record what IP address is at what physical location. Many companies do that, not just MindMax. Google's another one that's known for doing that. I can also see what company typically uses a set of IP addresses and then figure out where the location of its business is. But when it can't find the actual address, it just uses an approximate address. So if it only knows that your IP address is somewhere in the city of Hutchinson, it'll just say that you're in the exact center of Hutchinson. But if it only knows that the IP address is in the United States and it can't further figure it out, it just uses the actual approximate center of the United States, Joyce's front yard. So when a reporter in 2016 managed to get a hold of the co-founder of MindMax and told him about all the problems that their approximation was causing her, he was appalled. And since then, he changed the approximate center of the United States for their company as they figure it out to the middle of a lake. But before all this was corrected, it was so bad that the local sheriff had to intervene and put an official sign in her driveway warning anybody in law enforcement, regular people, ambulances, to leave her alone and call them if they had any questions about anything going on at that house. So he could intercept it and tell them that no. So until 2016, Joyce had no idea why this was happening. She only knew it was crazy, and it wasn't fair that all this stuff kept getting reported to her address for no reason that she could understand. Well, who actually caused the issue? We have no idea. They were IP addresses unable to be tracked to any location except the United States, so it could be dozens to thousands of different fraudsters. She was blamed for the sins of many different individuals. Not fair. Here's a website that still accuses them of actually doing all of these different things. Again, not fair. It also wasn't fair that Jesus had to die on the cross for something that he didn't do, but he did it anyway. 1 Peter 3:18 tells us, "For Christ also died for sins once and for all, the just for the unjust, so that he might bring us to God, having been put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit. In Isaiah 53:5, but he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. It also isn't fair that we have salvation that we didn't earn. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "For by grace ye have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not as a result of works." When we think about life not being fair, we need to remember that if it was, we'd have no hope of a future.